we got 4 different trailers we're going to be talking about. First up is going to be Netflix's Dark Crystal TV series, which is a prequel to the movie from the 80s.
Puppets, puppets, puppets. Lots of puppets.
It looks really good.
It does. Yeah.
Thing is, though, they've been teasing this series for years now, and it actually went dark for like a year or so. Like, we haven't heard anything about it. Then they dropped this trailer the other day, and it's like, oh hey, it's coming out at the end of August. Like, okay, hell yeah, let's go.
You know, on our movie night on the Discord, one of these past weeks over the months, like, we got to vote, and like I think like Willow and Dark Crystal came up for a vote. And
that was a couple months ago. Yes, I do remember.
That was a couple months. Dark Crystal. Honestly, I think all the movie nights we've had, I've seen like pretty much every movie that's come up before. Like, that's just how it's turned out. Like, that week I voted for Willow because, oh yeah, that's that one where there's like a bunch of little people in it, like not Vern Troyer, but the guy who plays the Leprechaun. That guy was in it. Tony Cox, that the little guy that's in Bad Santa, you know, he was in that too. But Dark Crystal, okay, like, this is a Jim Henson production. It's not like an ordinary.
It's a very dark Jim Henson production.
Yes, it's not like, it's probably darker than Labyrinth. Although I gotta say that one song in Labyrinth where those monsters were like taking their heads off and shit, like dancing around, that was pretty crazy. I think that would traumatize some children. But Dark Crystal, lots of puppets. I didn't see any live actors in this. It looks like it's pretty much all puppets, really. Muppets, puppets. Yeah.
Muppets and puppets. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've never seen the original movie, but this, I think it's called Age of Resistance, I think is the subtitle for the Netflix series.
Yeah.
And it looks really good. All the practical effects look really good. All the puppetry and the set design and everything, it looks really good, really well designed. They definitely put a lot of thought and effort and just love into making this. Like, you can tell this was a passion project, and it definitely shows. But yeah, it's been a few years since they first started talking about it and teasing it, and it's finally coming out. It's coming August 30th, so mark your calendars and get ready to binge watch. Next up will be Rambo Last Blood, which is what we're expecting to be Sylvester Stallone's last foray as the titular character Rambo.
Okay, my question is, what triggered the government or whoever's coming after him this time? Because it looks like he's just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I like he's just on his farm. He looks like he's retired.
In Oklahoma in the Dust Bowl or something. Like, he's just like out in the middle of nowhere. Like, it looks like wherever he lives, it's very meager living. Like,
he's living out in the middle of nowhere, living on a farm, and looks like this mercenary company or terrorist group or some government agency or something goes after him, and it's just like...
He's a loose end, even if he's gonna die of a heart attack, living by himself in 5 years. We gotta go rub him out, wipe him out. And I said Oklahoma. I don't actually know if it takes place in Oklahoma, but I'm just saying, think Dust Bowl, Oklahoma, middle of nowhere. Just, I always wanted to say Shotgun Shack, but he's got a barn too. He's got a house, but
he's got a field and he's farming. He's making
he's trapping everything.
Yes, I was gonna say it's kind of like an adult version of Home Alone. Like how he's like booby trapping everything, setting up traps for them to set off, and explosions going off, crossbow traps set up, and like there was one scene of a rake trap where it's like a rake comes down and stabs some dude in the back.
You're gonna see something on the news. I bet you someone's gonna do something.
Sideshow Bob. That never happened to Sideshow Bob. He stepped on all those rakes. It never happened. He never got skewered by one.
But it looks good. I will admit. Stallone looks good despite his age, and it looks to be like a proper final outing for his character of Rambo. You know.
Well, if just to say, do we have more to talk about on this one?
I mean, it's a Rambo movie. That says it all.
The whole trailer was him just like setting up traps and then people getting killed by him in the traps. So
the first Rambo movie was originally just called First Blood, and it's a lot different from the other ones. The other ones is just like a greasy muscle dude with the machine gun in the jungle, like just shooting at everything, and his body count like kind of racks up. Like I'm trying to think, what was it, UHF or something? What the hell movie was like Weird Al was like all greased out and he was just like shooting at everything, or like maybe one of the Hot Shots movies, like they were just doing a big parody of these of the Rambo movies. But yeah, the first movie was a lot different than the other ones.
This one seems to be a bit more toned down because again, he's old, he's retired, he's taken up farming apparently, and it's just like he just wants to live out his last days in seclusion or whatever. But something happens.
He's getting his Social Security and like his VA benefits and all that, and he's cool.
He's retired. He just wants to be left alone, and then for some reason not explained in the trailer, it's like he gets swarmed by people, and it's apparent that he knows they're coming too because of him setting up traps throughout part of the trailer.
And just to say, in the first Rambo movie, which I said is different than the other ones, he is like a vagrant, like Vietnam War vet, who is like just traveling, just walking on foot through like a small town, and he's getting harassed by the police, and then they arrest him, and then he just snaps and like attacks them, and then he goes out into the woods, and they just keep sending more and more people after him, and he's defending himself, and he ends up killing some of them, and then they have to call in like some old colonel or office major or something that he used to work with during the war to get him to come out. And it was kind of like Rambo was like a reaction to like the Vietnam War, as there were so many back then, like Apocalypse Now and whatnot, Platoon. But this sounds more like, because in the first Rambo, he was just traveling, walking through. He had his freedom, and the police didn't give him shit. And the police, Brian Dennehy, I think, was the first cop that he encounters in the first Rambo, and he was like a Korean War vet, and he looked down at him because it was like the Korean War was considered like a draw or more of a success than the Vietnam War, so he was looking at him like, oh, you loser, you blew it for our country. So he didn't have any respect for this guy. They were both vets, and this Korean War guy, I bet, was just like being a dick. Pretty much Rambo 1 was about small town cops being dicks to veterans. That's what that was about.
It's an unfortunate thing that happened, unfortunately, because Vietnam was such a controversial war. When our vets came home, they were literally spat on and just completely and utterly humiliated and disgraced because people unfortunately took out their disposition of the war on them, and it's really sad. They've finally gotten the recognition and that they've deserved, but unfortunately many years way too late, in my opinion, as somebody who has family who served during the Vietnam War as well as the Korea War.
Yeah, that's. We better move on to the next movie.
But yeah, so Rambo Last Blood will be in theaters September 20th. So
Now, if we talked about Rambo, shouldn't we talk about the Terminator one next? Is that
Yeah.
yes, we shall. And the name of the movie is called Terminator Dark Fate. And it will be they're doing an interesting thing. This is the first movie since Rise of the Machines, Terminator 2.
Janison?
No. Was Terminator 2 Rise of the Machines? I forget.
Judgment Day.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This is the first Terminator movie since Judgment Day in which James Cameron is returning as director, producer. And they're making this a requel, as Cameron is calling it, in which it is erasing 3 Genesis and Judgment Day from the block, and this is going to be a sequel to Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yes.
And it is also the first time in 28 years in which Linda Hamilton will be reprising her role as Sarah Connor.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, Judgment Day came out in 1991.
Jesus Christ. That's nuts.
Yeah. And it's still considered a leader in sci-fi action movies
Yeah.
because of
And
how great it was.
And I believe the biggest gap in time between Terminator movies was between the second one and the third one. Because the third one came out, I believe, in 2003. And you say when Judgment Day came out in 91, was it?
Yeah.
Funny thing about Judgment Day, I've heard that when they were shooting some of the night scenes in Judgment Day, like when Arnie goes into the bar and he's naked and he like gets the clothes and the motorcycle from those guys in Terminator 2, just down the freeway, like or around there in Los Angeles on the night that they were shooting, the Rodney King beating happened. So
wow.
that's a maybe a not so fun fact, but that is something that was happening the night that they were shooting. It's very interesting. It came up like on a commentary on a DVD I got for Terminator 2. And I was
don't know why I thought you were going to say on the top of a Snapple or something. That's terrible.
So this is going to be
under a Snapple cap.
Did
Popsicle.
you know?
This is going to be the first time in 28 years in which Cameron, Linda Hamilton, and Arnold Schwarzenegger have been reunited for a Terminator movie.
Cool.
And yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's Bach. That was terrible.
And he's old man Terminator.
Yes,
Yeah.
but which is interesting too. But so I guess they're keeping this lore bit from Genesis, despite the fact that they're writing it off for this movie, the actions that happened in it. But apparently, the skin that was used in creating his character, for the Terminator franchise, was made to age just like a human's skin. So.
Huh.
That's why he's Old Man Terminator now.
Alright.
He's there to like protect young Sarah Connor. So there's going to be like 2 Sarah Connors, I believe, in this. I think there's going to be Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, and then there's like a little girl that I think might actually be her too. It's something that I just might have picked up from the trailer. But or maybe not. I mean, that was kind of like a plot in Genesis too. I wonder if they're bringing that back too.
Yeah.
The main villain that will be hunting them through this movie is a new type of android. Which is it? The T-800. which is interesting because it's T800. Wasn't the Liquid Metal Man the T1000?
Yes.
Sounds like it.
And I thought a T800, I thought that was like the model like a normal Terminator was, like the Arnie Terminator was a T800.
Yeah, he was like a T800 prototype or whatever. But okay, that might be wrong, but yeah. So there's there's an interesting thing going on in where it's a hybrid basically, where it uses the liquid metal Terminator as a exoskeleton for a more Arnie-styled Terminator inside skeleton. It's endoskeleton, I believe. So the exoskeleton is the liquid Terminator, and the endoskeleton is the more traditional Terminator model. And they're linked, I believe. So it's very interesting to see that, because it's going to create some very interesting encounters, one can imagine, as a result, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're not just facing against one, in which the past Terminator movies have been about, like them evading and being hunted by, like, in Judgment Day, the single T-1000, or in the first Terminator movie, where it was Arnie going after Linda Hamilton, the Terminator versus Sarah Connor. So instead, it's kind of like a combination of T1 and T2, because you have the exoskeleton liquid Terminator, the endoskeleton more classic Terminator, working together to hunt Mackenzie Davis's character, Grace, which is, this is where it gets weird, she's a human Terminator hybrid.
Huh.
She's a human-robot hybrid. Because I'm sure, as you noticed during the trailer, when the endoskeleton Terminator threw a piece of rebar back at her after she threw the rebar poles at it and impaled it, which led to the liquid exoskeleton Terminator to climb along those poles and reform on the hood of the truck that was chasing the vehicle that they were in. It scratched her skin, revealing like a mesh, like a metal mesh fiber underneath her skin.
Just a reminder, she was in the second Blade Runner movie, which had the replicants. So now she's in this, and now she's a Terminator.
Not a Terminator. Yes and no.
Well, yes.
She
doesn't. She seems to have like an artificial intelligence that's like more like a human. She thinks she's human. Like all the other Terminators, they know that they're freaking Terminators. She seems to.
She might not be, though. That's the thing. Like, she's specifically referenced as a human-robot hybrid. So I'm thinking something more along the lines of a possibility of a RoboCop type thing with her.
Yeah, I could see that.
As compared to a Terminator that's made to act human, like Arnold Schwarzenegger's character.
Something else to say about RoboCop. RoboCop was a man who was like
severely injured and got transplanted into a robot's body. Yes.
So it's like, was she born a human and then she?
We don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out later. Because, yeah, the only synopsis given to us by IMDb right now is Sarah Connor has returned from far away, and she's gearing up with a team of agents who will fight against T-1000. Doesn't really tell us much.
Yeah. We'll have to see it.
And we will be able to see it in September on the 1st. I mean, not September, November. November 1st is when it comes out.
Cool.
Alright, so who's interested in some horror series? more specifically Swamp Thing, which is a thing that actually launched today on DC's streaming service, DC Universe.
I mean, I like horror. I'm all for a good horror series.
Yeah, it's like I'm sub to Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. Like, those are like the big three. And I just recently jumped really onto Hulu like late last year, and I don't see myself getting that CBS All Access to watch Twilight Zone. I have seen some of those on an illicit website. I have seen some of those episodes, and they're pretty damn good.
Aren't they?
In particular, I like the comedian one, the first
That
one,
was
and
the
then
first
also
one.
the one.
It's a great,
then-
it's a great one to start the new series off.
And then I also liked the one where they're trying to get that kid to school, to college, and they had to like underground railroad his ass
Oh, yeah.
to school. That was crazy. That cop just showed up everywhere. It was like evil freaking cop.
Yeah.
But all right,
Always watched
so
them back in
Swamp
Swamp Thing.
Yes.
So we'd have to pay like what, $5 a month?
I
or-
don't know the cost of it, but it's. I gotta admit,
How many?
yes, there's too many streaming services. There's been multiple even news stories about like, is streaming service exhaustion a thing? Like, should we be thinking about this? Like, there's so many
I mean, kind
streaming
of.
services where it's just like,
Okay.
you get
On-
tired of it. But
on
yes,
Hulu-
the
on-
series Swamp Thing. It looks like it's there's a plague breaking out in a small town, which leads the CDC to come to the town to investigate it. And that is basically where the series starts, roughly about.
And there's like nobody wearing any hazmat suits or any masks. There's like this crazy pathogen that's just killing people. In that whole trailer, you didn't see anybody even wearing gloves. What the terrible oversight. Whenever I see some sort of crime movie and motherfuckers aren't wearing gloves, I'm like, they know they got fingerprint, man. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, and it's especially dubious when it's like there's a deadly pathogen like killing people, and you're not even wearing like a dust mask or anything. Like,
Just some little respirator doctor mask thing to cover your nose and mouth. Something to get whatever
Yeah.
the particles in the air.
just
Right.
even one of those like painter's masks that goes over your nose and mouth would be would be something. But
Okay, something.
the series
I wa-
looks good, aside from obvious oversights from the production crew. The series looks good. It looks very disturbing, very creepy. The Swamp Thing itself looks horrifying, and the little few shots that we've seen of it from this trailer and previous trailers, it looks really good. The physical effects, the practical and the CG effects, they all look really good. Like, the acting, even from the little kids, seems pretty on spot on and well done, and it looks fairly decent.
Nice.
Funny thing to mention. When I was a little kid, I thought Swamp Thing and the Toxic Avenger were like the same thing. I couldn't tell them apart. It's just something silly to bring up. But also something about the inconvenience of all these streaming services. You know, you can get HBO through Hulu. They just like incorporate it onto your Hulu bill.
Yeah, but it's another tacked on charge and stuff like that.
But for convenience sake, I would prefer another little tacked on charge potential.
But you can do the
onto-
same thing through Amazon too. Amazon also offers the exact same thing that you're saying you get from Hulu. Like, you can tack on stuff like Showtime, HBO, and other such premium channels.
I would rather have that $5 be tacked on to like one of those other bigger players than pay them independently $5. That's just what I would be more comfortable with doing. But what the hell else would they have on there? Like they got like DC animated movies,
TV series and stuff.
Yeah, they
and
have a whole bunch of series.
I'm sure they have their live action movies on there too, because if not, that would be silly.
What about like there's like a series called like Gotham or something? Is that like on there? Or is that just...
I don't know if it's on there because that was on like cable.
That was that was on Fox. Which, hey, guess who owns Fox now?
Getting tired just like talking about this. Like, oh my god.
But and also I think Gotham is on. Wouldn't that be on Hulu? Considering Fox programming is generally put on Hulu. Which, hey, guess who owns Hulu now?
I'm just bringing
it
that
was
up.
on Netflix, though.
It was? Okay.
For sure on Netflix. I don't know if it's on Hulu.
I'm just bringing this up because I have no idea what the hell would be on this DC network other than, okay, you got the Swamp Thing, and then you got, like, there's been, like, all these, like, animated DC movies. And predominantly everyone that I've seen has been pretty good. Like the Red Hood one, that animated movie, that was pretty badass.
I will definitely admit, when it comes to animated features, that is one place where DC has Marvel beat, like hands down, because they put out a lot of them, and while some of them the quality's a bit sketchy, a large majority of the DC animated TV series and animated movies are really good.
Yeah, they actually have a whole bunch coming out this year. They have Titans is returning for season 2 this year. Young Justice.
Yeah, Young Justice is going to be an exclusive to DC Universe. There's also the possibility. There's also the possibility that the original Teen Titans series will be returning as a DC Universe exclusive, which I'm really, really hoping for, because I was a huge fan of the original Teen Titans series, and Teen Titans Go is a major insult and spit in the face for anybody who was actually a fan of the original Teen Titans series. Just Teen Titans Go is just Teen Titans No. Just no.
But so Harley Quinn, Swamp Thing, obviously, and Doom Patrol, Stargirl. I don't know what that is, but just a few that are coming out this year.
Like Starfire, you mean?
No, Stargirl. I don't know what that is, but it was just listed.
But an interesting thing is they're marketing Swamp Thing as being a part of the DC horror series. So my guess is they're probably going to be doing other horror franchises and tying them all in together through the DC Universe streaming service, which I gotta admit, if they do well, I can see that being a rather interesting thing.
I know, I'm kind of mad because now I want to get it. Like, all these streaming things.
What's the price for it? Is it like $5, $8, $10? What is it?
Hold on.
It's gotta be something like that. Okay, wait, $7.99.
That's not bad.
No, it's actually not. I thought it'd be more.
Let's see. And they have an annual price of $75, which is 20% off. That's actually close to what the Disney Plus price model is going to be. It's $1 more, like legit.
I wish HBO had an annual price, which I don't believe they do.
Not that I'm aware of.
So.
I mean, I have HBO year-round almost just for Bill Maher. That is like a show that I don't think comes up on... They would come up on like pirate sites because it's more of a news show. I think John Oliver might be another one that might not come up on illicit
He
streaming
does, actually.
Oh, you've seen John Oliver on an illicit stream site, you mean?
Yeah, I may have partaken.
Okay.
You two can swap sites later. Let's move on to science news.
All right.
Yeah.